At the southernmost tip of New Zealand, nature's balance exists precariously in these vast expanses of icy ocean and on these windswept rocky cliff faces. This is the Otago Peninsula, New Zealand's treasure trove of biodiversity. Here is the Southern Hemisphere's only mainland albatross colony, where a few people enthusiastically work spreading awareness on the world's largest bird.
Over here, we've only got 150. It's a small colony, all right? So they've only established themselves here not very long ago, 1919.
The Royal Albatross Centre at Tairoa Heads is run with help from the Department of Conservation and the Otago Trust. And part of the team is science educator and guide Leon Chu. Leon trained as a computer engineer, but swapping machines for marine birds came naturally to him.
I've always had a deep interest in wildlife, although being a traditional Chinese boy, we were taught to go to uni and do proper things. And in New Zealand, wildlife conservation is definitely a proper thing. So here I am. I never thought that I ended up doing what I'm doing, but it's taken me in a new direction.
Leon designs educational programs to guide and generate awareness in visitors who travel here to catch a glimpse of these majestic seabirds, often confused for large seagulls.
One of the very common comments that we get is, albatrosses, they're just big seagulls, aren't they? Well, no, not really. And quite often when these fellas come on tour with us, they get a nice whopping surprise when one flies over their heads. Then they realise what it's not, just a big seagull.
And there are truly few things more captivating than the flight of the albatross.
When you see an albatross flying, you can just feel that it is very relaxed in the air. It's just sitting there weaving through the wind with no effort. And it's just that serene feel of it flying as opposed to other birds flapping very hard, working away. It's that feeling, I think, is what gets me. I think a lot of it is to do with the mystery of the albatrosses, because for a very long time, people only ever saw them flying behind boats. Sailors, some of them saw them as a good thing because it would lead them to land. And some of them saw them as a bad thing because an albatross, because they spend so much time in the ocean flying around, it could lead them to their doom.
Even today, little is known of these elusive birds that spend most of their lives on sea and in the skies.
We know a fair bit about 15% of their lives here, but there is a whole 85% that we don't actually know that much about. We're getting there slowly because we are using GPS trackers and we're learning.
As educator, Leon needs to constantly keep on top of any new research being done on the birds to accurately inform visitors. Although his role here involves finding and sharing facts, it isn't easy to ignore the emotional attachment to his job.
After being here for the last 3 years, attachment is definitely growing. We get quite a sense of pleasure when we know that this year a particular bird is due back, and when we see it back, we say, "Whoa, yay, it's back to see us again."
Hundreds of albatross return each year to this ancient Maori pa site to court, breed and nest, giving enthusiasts like Leon just a peek into their vast life cycles of nearly 60 years.
The most exciting part of the life cycle for me is not so much the flying around, but the hatching time. Yeah, I'm quite excited when a chick finally pops out of its egg after 3 to 5 days.
Since 1920, about 500 chicks have been hatched right here at Tairoa Heads. Downy chicks like these juveniles wait patiently for their parents who are off hunting for their favourite meal, squid. Weighing about 11 kgs, it's easy to see how they will soon display impressive 3-metre wingspans. And just as well, for soon they'll be effortlessly covering about 1,000 kilometres a day.
They're using the wind and using the effects of it to generate lift, where they can climb the slower air that they are facing upward, and when they get high enough, they'll turn around and start to fly with the faster air. So it just zips down. It's just like a sailing boat.
While the adolescents show off their flying skills to attract mates, new parents swoop down to feed their chicks. The entire cycle of life unfolding for Leon to share with visitors.
About 1,000 kilometres directly east of Christchurch. Over there, there are still 20,000.
Last June, Leon welcomed the centre's 1 millionth visitor, a milestone for this thriving ecosystem, sure to attract more in years to come.
All of the creatures out here live essentially in harmony because they all have their little niches on the headland. They all have slightly different food sources. They have all benefited greatly from the conservation work done for the albatrosses. The gulls around here, the royal spoonbills, the shags, they're all very good examples of birds that is increasing in numbers because they reside within the nature reserve. The work that gets carried out here is pretty important.